Hi, I'm Jack Milburn. I went to Teesside University. I think my experience on the course, the graphic design course, was a really great experience. I think, there's a couple of people now that I still speak to, and we discuss work, we discuss life, we get feedback off each other because we're all in kind of similar positions, similar roles, and there was a lot of really great things that happened that I think have contributed a lot to where I am. Since then, I've been working at agencies for the past kind of 8 years, and now the past year I've been a freelance designer currently in the south of France, in Bordeaux. The inspiration to go freelance was maybe a long time coming, but maybe didn't have the confidence to do it for a couple of years. I think I'm a person who thrives with freedom, and you get that in roles, you get that at agencies, but I wanted to be able to define the type of work I was doing a little bit more. My kind of dream was always to just work on projects that I really love and I find super interesting, whether it's visually or from a story point of view, or even just like an emotional point of, is that client doing something interesting in the world? And the work I'm doing is really at the crossroads of strategy and visual identity design. It's making sure the bare minimum is represented in the bare minimum, because that's kind of what branding really is. Currently I work with mainly US-based clients, so it means I have quiet mornings, which is quite nice. But beyond that, work is managed by myself, which is again a huge point of a positive. And I think that's a huge thing for me, is to be able to manage my workload and manage my creativity. I think if there can be any one piece of advice, whether it's even the projects you're doing now, of find ways to make it about work that you really believe in and you want to do long term, because that's the way you're going to obsess over it in the healthiest way possible and do it in the best way possible.